Jaren Jackson Jr. goes to Utah. The Bulls are making trades. The Celtics are making trades. Pistons are making trades. And did Cleveland call about Anthony Davis? Let's talk about all of that on this One More Thing of Locked On Mavs. You're locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your hosts, Isaac Harris, covering the Mavs for the last 10 years alongside my good friend, Nick Angstad. And I'm doing a quick one more thing because it is trade season, and this is one of my favorite weeks of the whole year. It's honestly kind of like if you grew up listening to the radio for snow days, and it's like you were like waiting and the radio is like telling you, that was the only source we had to tell you if you had if your school was closed. And now you have the internet and everything, and there's like really no like, I don't know, buzz behind it. But that moment that that radio host said that your school was out of school the next day because of snow, it was just like euphoric. And that is kind of like the feeling now during trade season when you get that notification and it's like, this trade is happening. This team's sending that. It's like, oh my gosh, it's such a fun week. It's a lot of fun. I don't know how fun it is for Dallas right now, and I'll talk about that, but I just wanted to, the Mavs play in like an hour. All right. So we never record at this time, like an hour before the game tips. I'm going to try to drop this before the game even tips off. So if you're some like really sickos out there, you're going to listen to this like during the game or like halftime or maybe on your way home from the game. But I just want to talk about all the trades that's happened today. Special shout out to everybody who said this is going to be a quiet trade deadline. Man, we've already got a ton of trades and there's still a day and a half left. So let's go through them all right now. And I want to talk about some Mavs thoughts and connections to some of those on this One More Thing. All right. So I think it was Windhorst who said on from ESPN to said that Cleveland is, what the crap is going on right now? I mean, it feels like they could do anything and everything. The Harden stuff is out there. Are they trying to do bigger stuff and go after Giannis or prepare for LeBron? I don't know what's going on with Cleveland, but Brian Windhorst said that they did call the Mavericks about Anthony Davis. Haven't really considered Cleveland for Anthony Davis just because the big thing with Cleveland is they are a second apron team. When you're in the second apron, you can't combine salaries in a trade. So if they do go make a Harden for Darius Garland trade, that can happen because it's a 1-for-1 swap. But if it was like, hey, we're going to try to combine, two guys to go get Harden, they can't do that. Or combine a couple guys to go get an Anthony Davis, they can't do that. But what if they could get under the second apron? That's the only way that they can really go after an Anthony Davis because, they just don't have the, 1-for-1 type of thing. Dallas can't take back more money. So how can Cleveland end up with Anthony Davis? I think one of the telling things for Cleveland and one of the things that would make your ears perk up even more is if sometime in the next 24 hours, they dump a salary like a Dennis Schroeder or a Max Strus, but Schroeder is the one because you still need a guy to, if you want to go get a bigger salary like an Anthony Davis, you still need salary to match up to that price. So let's just say hypothetically they called Brooklyn or they called Memphis with a trade exception, or they call who's the other team? Celtics, I think, have a trade exception now. Which they're trying to duck tax stuff. A lot of teams trying to duck the tax right now. You basically find a team that will take on Dennis Schroeder and say, hey, you take Schroeder, we'll give you a second or two. Would a team take on Schroeder for a couple seconds? Then once you do that, I think Schroeder is just enough to get you under the second apron. Then you can aggregate and combine salaries. Then they could turn around and honestly, you could make it one big trade if you wanted to. And it's like Harden goes to Cleveland. Could you get it protected? I think if I'm Cleveland and I'm giving the Clippers Darius Garland, then I'm saying I got to get some type of pick back, even if it's a protected first. So what if it's Garland goes to the Clippers, it's a future protected first, and James Harden that goes to Cleveland, then they turn around and send that protected first with Jared Allen, Lonzo Ball, and Max Strus to Dallas for Anthony Davis. And then there's Cleveland that's saying, hey, we just kind of turned all this stuff into James Harden, Anthony Davis, and we still kept, Keon Ellis and obviously Mitchell and Mobley and these guys. I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how likely what happens with Cleveland is. Do we have to, like a lot of things, see what happens with the Giannis situation, and then we'll see what Cleveland does or some of these other teams do. But That's the thing with Anthony Davis. If Cleveland does want to try to go trade for Anthony Davis right now, they have to get under the second apron. And in order for them to do that, they have to shed some money. I think it's like $14 million, basically a 13.8, somewhere through there to get under the second apron. Then they can combine some salaries. I don't know the likelihood of that. I've talked to zero people about Cavs and AD. But I have been pretty adamant that I think AD gets traded before the deadline. I know a lot of people are not saying that right now. I'm still holding true to it, but that's just me. I'll be wrong. I don't care. I don't care to be wrong on it. All right, let's go. Let's talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. So, man, I mean, talking about the shocker of the day, right? One of my favorite things when shockers hit, big trades hit, is like, all right, who's going to be the reporter that tries to take a victory lap? Because no one was really talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. We had a few things out there as like, well, if they're going to trade Ja, then they'll probably, at some point, are they going to trade Jaren Jackson? We hadn't heard any, no, Utah is interested in Jackson, or even teams outside of speculation. And then bam, this hits out of nowhere. So it's Jaren Jackson Jr., Vince Williams, Jock Landale, and Conchar goes to Utah for Taylor Hendricks, which shout out to when he broke his leg in Dallas. But top 10 pick a few years ago. Walter Clayton, I like Clayton. Kyle Anderson, Nemesis, let's go. Niang, and 3 first-round picks. You start looking at the first, I think a couple of those picks are in the 2027 draft. There's not a lot of positive stuff being talked about with the 2027 draft right now. Completely different than the 2026. But we're still far out from that draft, and a lot of things can happen with that draft. So anyway, they get 2 firsts in that draft. I think they get some type of protection on that Lakers pick, a future Suns pick in 2031. And they kept all of their picks in Utah. So I actually personally saw this from both sides. I kind of liked it for both sides. Like, Utah, what free agents are you trying to get? Sure. I'm not the biggest Jaren Jackson guy, just because he's hardly ever healthy. He doesn't rebound for a big, but I know he's super versatile. And so I kind of get it for Utah. It's like, hey, swing for it. You're not getting a free agent. For Grizzlies, I commend Memphis, because I think teams are too scared to do this at the timing in which they do it. So many teams want to hold on to pieces even when they're not contenders, and then just kind of try to ride it out, instead of, you look at Memphis and it's like, hey, they kind of looked at their team and said, Ja, Jaren Jackson, Bane, these guys, this isn't winning us a title, so let's go cash in. They trade Bane for all those first. Now they traded Jaren Jackson Jr. They're probably going to trade Ja, and they have this collection of young guys on the roster, some guys you kind of like, some guys you're kind of like question marks, and then all these future firsts. So I kind of like it for Memphis too. Good luck to Dallas trying to out-tank Memphis. Then we had the weird Pistons Bulls deal that's feels like it's a precursor to something else, but Jaden Ivey and the expiring contract basically of Ivey and Mike Conley go to Chicago. Chicago now has a CVS receipt of guards that you assume at some point that they're going to trade some of these guys. Hey, Dallas will take one of those. Over here, Dallas. Coby White, you giving him away? I'll take Coby White for one. Daniel Gafford, that would be a cool trade for Dallas. So then the Bulls, I got sidetracked on Coby White thoughts. Pistons get Kevin Huerter and Saric, and I think a pick swap from Minnesota. And I think a lot of us, including myself, is like, all right, is Minnesota getting Coby White? They're not in this deal. And it feels like they're still chasing Giannis. I'll have thoughts about that in a second. Then last trade before I hit record, or a few hours ago, Vucevic goes to Boston with a second, basically swaps a Vucevic for Anthony Simons, both of them expiring contracts. Does help get Boston closer to their tax line that they're, I think, trying to get under. Celtics also created a big trade exception, basically the Simons contract worth of an exception, because they put Vooch into the Porzingis trade exception they had before. Blah, 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 all of that. Let's take a quick break, and I want to talk about all the connections to Dallas in this, and give some Mavs thoughts heading into the next 24 hours. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. This is the last call for football and on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is a game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every stat feels bigger. If you're a new customer, just bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's not just about finding a warm body. You need the right person. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates to match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Guys, I'll say I have hired someone off Indeed, and it is one of the best people I've ever hired. And now they're a friend of mine. And I like what Indeed does. If you're hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I want to find someone with real experience who could jump right in. And with sponsored jobs, your posts get seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, including to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job on premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. And that's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, talking about the Mavs, talking about the trades that happened earlier today. This is we're about 45 minutes from tip-off of this Mavs Celtics game. So if something happens, I'm going to try to get this episode out super quick because of everything that's going down. It's been a fun past 24 hours in the NBA. But let's talk about the impact of these trades with Dallas. Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, the Ivy Conley trade, the Vooch and Simons trade. And yeah, obviously the Cavs calling about AD. I talked about at the very beginning. Here's my thing with Giannis. Feels like, man, it's kind of funny the amount of teams right now. I saw something earlier today. It was like, did Ramones really say the Hornets are going to? I'm like, all right, now we're just talking about every team. If I still feel like feels like Miami has like been the team for Giannis. This is the one I've leaned towards for him for a long time. But this Minnesota thing is fascinating to me. And as a Mavs fan in the West, you do not want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. As a basketball fan, seeing Anthony Edwards and Giannis would be a lot of fun. But in the West, God, I don't want to see that. Because, this is a Mavs team. Like, we're trying to build something around Cooper Flagg, and you get for the next handful of years, you obviously have OKC, and then you have the Denver situation with Jokic, one of the best players in the world. And then you'd have the pairing of Ant and Giannis together. I mean, we're talking about those three teams, not even including Houston or what Lakers do around Luka, over the next year or so. And so just stay East. This is all I care about at this point. Giannis, stay East. It would be crazy if you go team up with Ant. Wouldn't blame him. And here's the thing too about the team up with Anthony Edwards, because it's not, this is purely a pull from Anthony Edwards. Like, it's not like Minnesota. I don't think I've ever seen any player say, you know what? I love the snow so much in Minnesota. I want to go live in Minnesota. This is about the pull of playing with Anthony Edwards. And I know, and I get when I'm about to say this, and I know a lot of you guys who've been listening to us for the past, 9 years in the podcast, 10 years covering the Mavs. We used to say this about Luka a lot, but I do feel like players eventually will want to come play with Cooper Flagg. And you saw Naji's comments to Ron over at TLS the other day about wanting to, be with Luka long term. But it does feel like Luka's style of play, if you want to read into Team USA connections and everything, even though Giannis and Ant don't have a Team USA connection because I do feel like it's going to be a little easier for players to want to come play with Cooper compared to Luka. Yes. Even though I did believe that before, and I think if Luka stayed here, especially some bigs would like to play with Luka, but it just made me think about the Anthony Edwards and Giannis going to Minnesota and all of that. One of the things with this too is the Celtics are probably out on Gafford now that they went and got Vooch. They got their big man that they're probably out on Gafford. Stein tweeted something about that, and how Dallas is expecting or wanting Boston to be one of the suitors for Daniel Gafford, and it just takes him off the board really. So I don't expect them to chase him. If there is a quote air quote chasing of Daniel Gafford, I do expect Gafford to be gone by the deadline. I think him and D'Angelo Russell is the one that the two that people probably assume the most right now will be not on the Mavs past the deadline. I still think Anthony Davis gets traded before the deadline, but I think majority of people say no on that. And then Klay is like 50-50, right? I don't know what to feel like with Klay. I tend to lean of like, hey, I'd rather keep Klay if the return isn't like decent, because I just love what Klay brings to the locker, as long as he wants to stay here and not go to a contending team. So for Gafford, the teams you're looking at, Pacers have been the one connected to him a lot. What do the Raptors do? The Hawks, we haven't heard anything of the Hawks over the past, 48 hours. Do they try to come get Daniel Gafford? Do the Lakers try to get Daniel Gafford? I just think that there will be some teams, some team will come calling and wanting a big man for the playoff run. And I don't expect Gafford to be on the team past the deadline. Are the Bulls an option for Gafford? I joked about this earlier in the show, but they have a plethora of guards right now, including Coby White. They just got Anthony Simons. They just got Jaden Hardy. Oh, not Jaden Hardy. Jaden Ivey. They just got Mike Conley. They still have Io. They have all these guards. Obviously, Giddey. They have a million guards right now. That's not going to end up that way. So, if there are teams out there that's needing some backcourt help, they're calling Chicago right now saying, hey, we'll take a guard from you. And if I'm Dallas, I'm calling Coby White, Simons. Man, if you could get Io, that would be awesome. And I'd really like him a lot. There's a lot of those guards that would be very interesting. Outside of Mike Conley, I don't really see the thing with Mike Conley. I think Houston will probably be calling about that too. Another thing to look at, was it, who was it? Ramona Shelburne that said that Chris Paul and the Mavs, how I think the wording on that was just felt like it was like me or Nick saying it of like, hey, I think that would be a cool fit. It's like, okay, is that sourced or are you just saying like you could see the fit? Once again, I don't really see it. Unless he is so dead set on, I have to play this year, this year, with any team, I'm not going to just like, I haven't played my last game, and no contending team will take him. Then I guess that would be I just don't see it. I don't see it, at all, to be honest. I think if Chris Paul doesn't get like included into a bigger trade, then he's just going to get bought out. And then, hey, does a veteran team, out there try to add Chris Paul for like a playoff run or something like that? But Dallas is going to be tanking, or whatever word you want to use for that, for the rest of the year. And I don't really see that. Grizzlies Celtics both created massive trade exceptions over the past 12 hours. One's like 27 million, one's like 28 million. So they're massive. They can take back some contracts here. So I would just watch them. You look at a trade with like Toronto, and let's just say, what if Toronto, they've been connected to Sabonis, they've been connected to AD in the past. Is there something there with Toronto to where Dallas, like, we're not taking Jakob Poeltl back, but we'll take back RJ Barrett. And then, so it's like some swing of Poeltl goes to Memphis. Is there a world in which the draft capital from Toronto in a deal like that would end up with like that draft capital and Poeltl going to Memphis, RJ going to Dallas, Anthony Davis going to Toronto. So in that scenario, Dallas would be opening up a ton of cap space, basically, splitting the Anthony Davis contract in half, bringing back RJ, and then, and then you have the other half of the money you're not even bringing back at all. So that's another way you could create some cap space stuff there. But, besides that, right now, overall for Dallas, I do expect them to make a deal, especially in the next 24, 48 hours before the deadline. But it's kind of sucky right now, right? There's no other way to put it, because even looking at like Utah right now, you look at Jaren Jackson Jr. addition in Utah with him and marketing it. They bring back Kessler and Keontae's playing well. Does Ace Bailey take a leap next year? It feels like Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to get the Trae Young treatment, where it's like, oh, he stubbed his toe over the weekend, he's out for the year, or he'll be reevaluated in 4 weeks, and then he just like never comes back, because they need to keep their pick. It's top 8 protected. If it moves out of the top 8, goes to OKC. So they need to keep their pick. Right now, as it stands, who has a better record next year, Utah or Dallas? Are you that confident that it's Dallas? If as it stands completely. And I only say that because you look, there's some West teams right now that are looking at their rosters and saying, hey, we want to get better. We want to take a leap next year. Utah is going to take a leap next year. Minnesota is trying to get Giannis. If they don't get Giannis, do they get Harden? Do they get Ja? There's some West teams that are trying to take a step forward. Dallas is one of the worst records in the league, and we don't own our pick for the next 4 or 5 years or the rest of Cooper's contract. So, got to figure some things out in Dallas. So we'll see what Dallas does over the next little bit. I expect them to do some things, and hopefully we have some emergency pods in the near future, because if Dallas sets pat and does nothing, I'm going to be a frustrated person on this podcast, because I think that means they really missed an opportunity before the deadline. But I don't think that happens. I think Dallas does something over the next day or so. There's that. There's some talking through some trades. Man, what a fun NBA just trade deadline, lead up to the deadline, and let's get moving, Dallas. Let's make some things happen. All right, Mavs tip off with Boston here in about 30 minutes, and there'll be a post-game show with Nick and Slightly, and then any emergency pod, you know where to go. We'll have a show right after the news break on this podcast. Yep. Peace out. Boop, 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 boop.